When you look back at the massive corporate, clinical, or entrepreneurial mountains you've climbed over the last 40 years, do you want those achievements to be the highest peak in your legacy, or are you ready to find out that those decades of work were simply a baseline training ground for something infinitely greater? Now that you've mapped out the trail, cleared that fog of ambiguity, and identified your unique wisdom, are you going to settle for a safe, comfortable mid-level assignment, or are you brave enough to blow the ceiling off your expectations and design the next chapter of your life that will truly echo into eternity? Welcome back to the Ignite Retirement Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Hennessy, the Retirement Igniter, and I want you to take a deep, intentional breath right now. We made it. If you've been walking this high altitude trail with me over the last month, you know exactly why today feels a little bit different. There's a distinct, understated air of celebration because we're officially standing at the summit. Together, we've marched through every terrain feature of the Purpose Framework, our roadmap designed specifically to help high achievers like you transition from the exhausting hustle of marketplace survival into the breathtaking territory of kingdom-focused significance. Let's look back at the ground we've covered. We began by stepping off the corporate treadmill to embrace the profound stillness of the pause. We dug into the bedrock of your identity to uncover your hidden talents. We adjusted your focus to reflect on your past career wins as an asset inventory rather than the museum display case. We refused to sink into the sea-level trap during the pinpoint phase, and last week we hit the tracks of those who went before us to observe the blueprint of a magnificent retirement. And that brings us to the final letter of our methodology, the grand crescendo. It's the big day. Today we're stepping fully into the elevate phase, and this is the stage where your preparation ends and your true ascent begins. This is where you stop looking at your boots, stop worrying about the loose gravel of transition, anxiety, and lift your eyes to the horizon line. To celebrate this milestone, we're not just going to talk about minor lifestyle adjustments here. We're going to talk about radical transformation on a scale that will elevate your expectations, your impact, your legacy to a level that makes your primary work years look like a warm-up act. As a retirement coach, the single greatest barrier I have to break through with elite leaders is this final phase, what I call the friction of the finish line. Our culture spent decades conditioning you to believe that retirement is a static destination. Bombarded marketing imagery of former executives sitting passively on beaches, staring blankly at golf courses, or winding down their clocks in an environment of insulated self-comfort. The underlying message is clear. You've climbed your mountain. You've hit the finish. Now sit down, protect your portfolio, and don't break anything. What a tragedy. What a spectacular insult to the 40 years of genius, sacrifice, and leadership you just accomplished. Let me tell you what happens when a high-performing leader buys into the fiction of the finish line. When you artificially lower your expectations to match a cultural standard of passivity, your capacity doesn't rest, it rusts. Your intellect softens, your worldview shrinks, and your daily focus degrades from solving massive organizational problems to complaining about the minor inconveniences of the elevation phase. Requires you to completely reject that artificial ceiling. You're bigger than that. The completion of your primary career was never meant to be a finish line. It was a checkpoint. It was the moment that you successfully completed your baseline training. You've gained the necessary resources and you've earned the absolute sovereignty of your time. You're not done. This is when you're finally ready to be deployed by God. Up until this point, you were working for a paycheck, a corporate title, a market validation. But on this second mountain, the constraints are gone. Now you climb for significance. You elevate your mindset, and you realize that your maximum capacity for leadership, mentorship, and creation isn't sitting in your past. Elevating the three pillars of your second peak will help you start this final phase of the purpose methodology. You need to stop asking yourself what you want to do to pass the time. That's a low-altitude question designed for a sea level. Instead, I want to ask you, what's the most complex, meaningful problem in your community or in your church that requires your operational wisdom to solve the problem? If your next assignment doesn't require faith, strategy, and a stretch of your capability, it is too small for you. Elevate the scale of your vision. Elevate your tribe. You can't climb a second peak if you're surrounded by people who are content to sit at sea level. If your entire social circle is obsessed with full-time leisure and stagnant nostalgia, their low expectations will act like an emotional anchor on your progress. You need to surround yourself with a high-velocity tribe, a peer group of people who are like you in this stage of life, leaders who refuse to settle, who push boundaries, and who hold others accountable for your permanent kingdom calling. In your primary career, your legacy was largely measured by metrics, market share, capital appreciation, organizational scale, and those are all fine things, but they're temporary. In the elevate stage, we shift our focus to an eternal timeline. Your legacy is no longer built on what you accumulate, it's built on what you're willing to pour out. It's built on the young leaders that you mentor, the nonprofits that you structurally fortify, the generational impact you set in motion because you chose deployment over departure. Look out at the landscape with me for a moment. When you stand at the summit of the purpose framework, the view changes completely. The ambiguity that used to cause you anxiety in the early days of the pause phase is gone. The fog has cleared. Your identity is sure. You can see the path behind you with absolute clarity. And you can finally see that not a single year of your life was wasted. The corporate boardrooms, the high-pressure clinical decisions, the late-night operational crises, the decades of navigating human dynamics are all a part of God's master design for your life. They were the gym where your spiritual and professional muscles were conditioned, and you're now entering the most magnificent window of your entire existence. You have the wisdom of age, the freedom of time, and clarity of purpose. This is your moment to build, to invest, and to ignite. We're closing this chapter, but the trail ahead of you is wide open. To help you lock in the work you've done already and to structurally implement this final phase, I want you to take 2 steps right now. First, if you haven't already done so, head over and download your multi-page guide, Second Mountain Blueprint. It's available on the Substack page, Ignite Retirement. This is the exact execution workspace we built to anchor the last 2 weeks of work. It features a deep dive audit, an operational asset inventory, and a tactical template designed to help you draft your metrics for this next chapter. Second, don't try to climb in isolation. Hit the subscribe button below and join our Ignite Retirement Substack community. This is our permanent digital headquarters. This is the space where leaders like you from across the country will share insights, review strategic plans, and maintain the accountability required to stay out of the sea-level trap. This concludes our deep, but our community is just getting going. We'll be shifting our focus to a new series detailing how to run a lifestyle audit on your daily routines, how to protect your marriage during the first 12 months of career transition, and you're not going to want to miss a single week. I'm going to look you right in the eye right now, metaphorically speaking, of course, and tell you how incredibly proud I am of the framework that you've put into place this last month. You've refused to settle for a passive, predictable finish line. You chose the harder, more magnificent path of significance. Keep your eyes on the horizon. Keep stoking your inner fire. And remember, your career may have ended, but your kingdom call is permanent. Let's ignite your retirement together.